Number 78, mediumship nuggets that I've gotten from various classes that I've taken from professional mediums who have been doing this longer than I have. Some of them famous, now some of them not so famous, but really good mediums. As always, like this video, comment on it below, click the subscribe button. All of those things help other people to see these videos. So the caveat here is that these were things, little nuggets that were good for me. They were meaningful to me. So for example, one quick example of one that wasn't, I did a class, we started the reading with a color. And people were getting, they get purple and they'd get all this information just associated with that color, or orange or whatever. It didn't work for me. It was not a good exercise for me. So these are nuggets, things that I consider nuggets, things that have been helpful to me that I hadn't thought of before taking somebody's class. I'm not going to mention any teachers by name. They're all good. And yeah, so I also don't remember who taught what, like what I got from what well-known person. So I just know that I hadn't thought of them on my own. So in no particular order, especially when you're practicing, when you're in a practice circle, when you're in development, you're not curing cancer. Just be playful about it. You're learning about yourself. You're learning how you interact with people in spirit, how your body responds, how your mind responds. And so be playful about it. I've gotten a lot of really good readings in practice circles just from being playful and not taking it all so seriously, even though it is a serious thing when there's a client in front of you who is hurting, who's in pain, right? So be playful about it, especially in practice circles. Another thing is to say that some clients need facts and figures, and some clients need, that makes it real for them. And other people need personal stories, little anecdotes, things like that. So, because facts and figures you can Google on someone, right? But something they called them when they were a child, a grandparent called them when they were a child, for example, you can't Google that kind of stuff. So I go into a reading, because someone taught me this once, to go in with the attitude of what does the client need to hear. It's a really good approach to doing a one-on-one reading. What does the client need to hear? Because no matter what it is they want without telling you, which is facts and figures or anecdotes or messages or whatever it is they're really after, go into it with that attitude. What does the client need to hear? Another one is, I do remember this person's name, but I'm not going to say it. There's a famous medium. He's really good. He says, he phrases things, I have someone who remembers being fill in the blank. Because everybody, I've said in lots of videos, everyone gets better after they pass. Everyone becomes a better version of themselves. And so if they're giving evidence of themselves now, they're not recognizable. But if you say, I have someone who remembers being really abusive, or who remembers being an attorney, or who remembers whatever it is, whether it's positive or negative information, it makes them recognizable. But it also acknowledges that that's not how they are anymore, right? If they were an attorney here, they're not an attorney in spirit. If they were really abusive here, they're not abusive in spirit. So, because people change, everyone changes, everyone gets better. One teacher really has, so when I first started to develop, I'll just say the thing, it's that someone in spirit is always there. So when I first started to develop, I would feel connected. I get this sense, this still happens to me when I open up to spirit. If light had a gentle sense of weight, that's what it feels like. And so I'd feel that connection and I'd get nothing. I'm like, there has to be someone there, like I feel connected. And I'd wait and I'd wait and I'd wait and I'd wait, and then and I'd panic and I'd go last in the circle, and then finally there was someone there. So I said this recently in another video, and I'll do it here too. If you just do this exercise real quick, take in a deep breath like this and blow it out. Just like that. The same way you expected air to be there, expect a person to be there. There's always someone there in spirit, always. And one particular teacher really hammered that into everyone's heads in the class. There were other things in that person's classes that I thought were great, but that was the thing I got the most out of. It was really good. So especially if you're new, expect someone to be there, because someone is always there. Another really good thing that I do all the time is to go with whatever my most overwhelming sense of them is. So most of us, when we connect, we know we have a person, we know if it's a man or a woman, and then it can be sometimes someone is clearly, mom, and so you run with that. But I try not to judge whatever it is that is the biggest or most overwhelming thing about them. So very recently, I was doing a reading for someone, and I was aware of bread that very quickly morphed into hot dog buns. And so I'm like, okay, let's run with the hot dog buns. That's really weird. Which immediately morphed into Coney dogs, chili dogs, Coney Island, walking on a pier, a beach pier that has like games and roller coasters and things like that on it. And so we were off and running. just go with the most, once you know you're connected, go with the most overwhelming sense of whatever you get, no matter how silly it may be. Don't judge it, just run with it. Another reading I recently did, I knew that was a man with the hot dog buns. I had a woman, and I had this overwhelming, I could smell and I could taste hot tea, and I could feel myself holding like a teacup, and I knew I was really into tea, so I'm like, okay, let me run with this. And that was actually very meaningful for the sitter in that case. So go with what is your most overwhelming sense of them? That's a really good way to start. Another interesting thing to do, it's an exercise that I do, and it's good for clairaudience, is to start with a sound. So if you're very visual like me, a lot of us are very visual, even if I'm connected and I'm seeing all kinds of things like, hot dog buns and tea and boardwalk, I'll wait until I get a memory of a sound or I actually hear something. And that gives a different dimension to readings when you go, especially if you're not usually auditory. And you can do the flip. If you usually feel things and translate them, wait for a visual. Or if you usually do something that's not the sense you usually use and wait for that to come up. Really good in a practice circle. Maybe don't make a client wait for something like that. And I suggest practicing. I've been doing this for 4 years now, and I still go to practice circles. It's really valuable. I think I'm going to be developing for the rest of my life. And all of the really good mediums that I've talked to, they all have that attitude that they're all going to develop for the rest of their life. Musicians are the same way. Really outstanding orchestral musicians never considered themselves done and accomplished, right? Standing up. Wow, I suggest this one. It completely changes the energy and the dynamic of a reading. Who knew? So again, try this in a practice circle, but do it with your client if you want. Even if you're on Zoom, prop up the computer, whatever you have to do to be able to stand while giving a reading. It's really interesting. I actually find it easier to do it standing and better information. Sometimes in my head, I will pretend to stand because it just changes. It changes the energy. I don't know how to explain it. Try it for yourself. Stand up during a reading. It's really interesting. A neat thing I do, so I often get names, but even if I don't get a name, like if you get a name and they can't take it, or even if you don't get a name, you can use your own name. And that's to say something related to each letter of the name. So if I were to use my own name, Lawrence, right, that's spelled Lawrence, I'd go with L and I'd say, oh, the laughter, this person did not laugh a lot. I can sense that they don't laugh a lot. Assumptions, this person did not like people making assumptions about them, and so on, LAWR, until you've spelled the name. Don't tell the client you're doing this, but it's a great way to get out of your own head, and it's shocking how spot on interesting stuff comes in when you do that. Just use a name, use the letter of each name. And then the last thing I'll give is a really good nugget that I got from somebody is to, once you're connected with someone, whether or not you know their relationship, but often you know this is a coworker, this is a parent, this is a spouse, a grandparent, whatever, feel into or reach for what were they like in their other relationships. So if you've got somebody's grandparent, what were they like at work? What were they like as a sibling? If you've got somebody's spouse, what were they like as a parent? What were they like as a coworker? Whatever. You want to feel into their different relationships, and that really opens up interesting information. It's again a different angle on the reading, on the person you're connected with. It's a good exercise to do, and when I remember to do it, I try to do that. You get caught up in the moment of reading, and a lot of this stuff will fly right out of your head, but the more you do it, the more second nature it becomes. So that's that. Anyway, those are some of the golden nuggets that I was able to think of off the top of my head over the last week. There have been a lot of them. I really suggest doing classes with someone who is well known, who is recommended to you by someone else. Next week, I'm going to talk about what attracts spirit to some people, because I was having mediumship experiences as a child, for years before I knew anything about mediumship. So I want to talk about that, what attracts people in spirit to some people, and maybe not to others. That's next week. As always, this week, like the video, comment on it below, click the subscribe button. Thank you for watching this time, and see you next time.